Here we go. By one of my clocks, it's already there. By the other one, it's 10 seconds away. So here we go. Guys, I would like to introduce Elmar, Andrew, and Ben Vost from LightWave Digital Limited. Vost? I always like to ghost Vost.
Yeah, lost.
Vost. Okay. So this
As you can see,
is
Ben last year's shirt. Sorry.
this is our LightWave 2023 presentation event of things that are coming. People will we will be showing off things that are coming in 2023, and maybe even showing or discussing things that might be coming past 2023. I'll go ahead and preface that for there. So here we go. I shall turn it over to our leader and Commander-in-Chief, Andrew Bishop. Andrew?
Yo. Okay. All right. So, I suppose a little bit of background. Obviously, we I think got this in very early May. So we started putting the team together then, and obviously at that point we hadn't received any of the code, any of the things that we needed to really evaluate what we were going to be dealing with. So quite a bit of our time initially has been, and Elmar, obviously his age, he's only, obviously 11, and look at him, he's, aged severely, and basically going through the lines of code and trying to work out what can and can't be done, etc., etc. So what we're going to be showing today is a chunk of stuff, not by any stretch anywhere near everything, but we're going to show a selection of things that kind of cover areas that we are enhancing over this first release. And obviously we're already starting to think about update 2 and 3 and so on. So let's give you a little snapshot of what we're going to be, I think, roughly releasing. I think we're going to be looking at 12 headline features. There's over 30 geo nodes, and more being worked on.
Now
we've got general updates.
I just want to say real quick here at the very beginning, when we say geonodes, we're talking about procedural geometry nodes. So this is, geonodes is our nice little short way of saying it.
Yeah, no, that's good, bud. You keep on, you chip in there. So, and we've got 20 plus. Again, there's going to be probably more, but 20 plus general updates, and that sort of interface tweaks, enhancements, new features, fixes, those sort of things. So we're currently looking at an upgrade with over 60 features. There are some things that we're getting and including in LightWave, which we're going to be embedding, and we'll cover a few of those. But there's quite a few things that we're not going to be mentioning today, simply because we are just sort of tying down whether they're going to be available in time. So we're planning to do probably another event in November, where we'll cover more of those things before release. So I think release will probably be the end of November, and sometime at the beginning of November we'll probably show a load more things. That's the first thing. So this is really just the start of sort of getting stuff out of what we're going to do. So we're going to, I think, probably show today probably the new instancing tool. So we've got an instance brush we're going to be showing. We're going to show some ProGeo things, so like a Boolean tool, Bevel, Spline, maybe the L system as well, Elmar, I think. Show that, that's kind of fun. And we're going to cover a bunch of other things. I can't remember, did I mention those as I went along last time, Deuce, or should I just mention the headline things we can mention today? Oh, actually, I tell you what, Elmar, there's a picture I don't have, but you might better post up in a few minutes for one of those things that I'm going to quickly overview. So we're going to include Chronosculpt. So it's always been sold as a separate item in LightWave, but a lot of people bought it when it first came out, but then really it's kind of been forgotten. But part of the reason we're going to include it, because it really does help you when you're doing sort of dynamic special effects where you're using bullet and you might break something up, shatter it, bits go onto the floor and still shimmer. One of the great things about Chronosculpt, you can just go in and sort of stop them shimmering very easily, and so we're going to be putting that straight away with LightWave. However, we've made sure it's working currently. Sort of working with the latest builds of LightWave, that won't be a problem, but we haven't got time to fix the actual interface, so it doesn't scale. So if you're on a 4K monitor, the fonts are going to be very small, but that will be something we'll try to fix going forward. Again, another point. Sorry?
I can show it when it comes to my turn to present. So.
Oh yeah, okay. So Chronosculpt basically is going to be in there. We've also got, for the first time in layout, which Ben is going to be showing later on, a text tool, which is good. So we'll show a bit of that later on. We've also have now completed Apple Silicon. So the reason I'm mentioning that now, it's a biggie for the app community. And it was obviously a lot of people were asking the question about the Apple side. We have now got it running natively, and it's a massive difference in speed. Elmar, I didn't know whether you just wanted to quickly pop that up on screen, the comparison between the three.
Give me 1 second.
The Rosetta one and the... I remember the numbers, so I can just say it, but anyway, so that's definitely going to be done. It's already working. We're just now getting over all the other bits of code into it. Elmar's just popped up the an image. If you can click on that and enlarge it, you'll see basically you've got the original Rosetta speed, the new Rosetta speed, and then the speed increase from native is 51% quicker. It's a huge speed improvement. Plus, of course, generally everything on there is just working faster because it's native. So that's from the Mac point of view, that's a really cool thing we've done. That's going to be released again in the 23 version at the end of November. We've also, but thank you for showing that. That's brilliant. We also have just got working the Unreal Bridge. I think Elmar's going to show a little piece on that, which is just a captured video of what's working. But we've effectively improved that. I'll let Elmar explain about the improvements with that when it gets to that. So the other thing we've done is we've got a very good working relationship with OTOY, which we're still working out what we're going to do, what we're not going to do, but it's kind of a really good conversation we're having with them. In fact, we speak to them. We've got a big conference call with them next week. But what I can guarantee is we're including off the shelf the Octane LightWave plugin, which has been updated, works with the latest version. That's going to be built in. So a couple of things about the Octane part of it. The Octane part of it was obviously we had a stack of requests for people to make sure we didn't drop support for OTOY's products. But all I can say is that there is every possibility. I think that's going to be a good long-term working relationship. So our aim will be to update that internally and also enhance it when we have the capacity to do that. So it's very much a part of our way forward, and that's now secure. So there's going to be more news on that, but right now it's we're bundling that. Now the reason why I talk about the bundling of it is at the moment the old plugin is free, okay, and it was free because LightWave had stopped selling and no one was developing it, and so they just basically put it out for free. But at some point in the future, it's not going to be free. So that means the plugin and the Octane render engine will go back to costing as it does on Maya and most of the other packages. So actually bundling it is a genuine saving from our point of view to you, and obviously us developing it further means we again there'll be other benefits for that longer term. So Octane plugin is in. Another big one which was talked about a lot was things like OD tools. Now, the thing with OD tools, I looked through it with Elmar and Deuce, and we chatted through extensive options for us to take. The thing with it ultimately is that a lot of the things that OD tools were adding were things that really should have been done in LightWave's, be it model or layout, years before. But at the same time, obviously, we had the opportunity to speak to Oliver, and I have to say he's just been fantastic and really been lovely to work with. And we basically have bought them from Oliver in entirety, and we're including those also with 2023. And in fact, we're going to be integrating those into the core. So there's two processes we have to go through, because we're going to have Python 3, which had already been started to be worked on before, and we're just completing that part of it. It means that some of those plugins aren't necessarily going to work straight away. So we've got to go through them, get them to work with Python 3, and then put them into the interface. So there's I suppose 3 stages. One is we bought OD tools. That's not a stage. The first stage would be obviously converting those and making sure they work with Python 3. Second stage is get them into LightWave, even if they're just basically in there included initially. But then the third stage will be to take those and amalgamate that with tools that are in LightWave to try to make a bit of a consolidation between those tools and make it just better in general. So the OD tools are also going to be in there as well as standard. And obviously the Unreal Bridge again has always been a separate download. I think that's still going to probably be not necessarily a separate download, it'll be part of the package you can download when you buy your system. I don't know, I'm not sure whether that's something longer term we'll just build into the interface as standard, but certainly, obviously, all those things are going to be available straight away. On a slightly separate thing to do with the website and whatever. So we're working obviously on a brand new website, which Ben is heavily involved with, and the guys are all chipping in with. Going to be a totally modern website. We will build a store into that, and that store is going to be available for free stuff as well as paid for stuff. So there will be stores in there. So if someone has a load of stuff they're making, they want to sell, that will be available, and obviously other stuff which will be free, plus tutorial stuff, stacks of that. And in fact, we've talked about upgrading all the tutorial books, the training manual, etc., substantially, but that is going to take more time than we've got available to us. So you can't just write that manual again and have it done in a couple of months. It's half a year's worth of work minimum. So, and part of the reason Ben is looking so tired is he literally, that's all he does, 24 hours a day. And no, he doesn't. He does other things. But basically, Ben is basically going to be updating that. But our main focus on the manual that we'll release in November will be for the new add-ons and the new features and those sort of things. So just a quick run through what we're going to be showing today. We're going to show the instance brush. We're going to show some of the ProGeo nodes, so Boolean, Bevel, Spline, L system, those sort of things. I'm sure Elmar will probably mention a few other things we're working on as well. And then we're not showing Chronosculpt, but obviously that's going to be included. The text tool, I think Ben is going to show a little later on. Apple Silicon, we can't show that now because it's still in development, but it's working. We will at some point roll that out and show some of that. But hopefully you'll all agree. I mean, a 51% speed increase on that is amazing. Obviously, the Unreal Bridge tool is now working perfectly, so we can now sync that seamlessly. So it means that what you change on one interface changed on the other, and it's super quick to set up as well, much easier than the previous version of the Bridge tool. So again, Octane, the LightWave tool part of that is going to be bundled, more coming, and the OD tools as well. Just to put a little sort of feel on it, there is a stack of other things we're in the process of closing down, which are also going to be included. But overall, we think we're talking in between probably $800 and $1,300 worth of external plugins and items now basically being included with LightWave off the shelf on day one. So the upgrade price is going to be exceptionally good value. A lot of things that maybe you haven't bought or would like to have, but they were too expensive, some of those things are going to be included with LightWave. And obviously there's going to be a substantial amount more we'll show a little later on. So so that's kind of the opening bit. Obviously we've worked pretty tirelessly. Part of the reason, I certainly haven't been on the chats as much as quite a bit of my time has been consumed with those things, and I think that's probably the same for Elmar and Deuce as well, although they've been on more recently than I have. I'll try to be more available. I know we're not doing a question and answer today, but I'm pretty certain if there are some particularly good questions that come up on the text, Deuce might throw one or two at me at the end. But fundamentally, the idea of today is just to make this as quick and as easy as we can. So I think probably a good time to sort of start showing stuff. So my friends, who wants to go first? Who did we start with last time? So, yeah, I remember you did that.
Never volunteer. Never volunteer.
It's Elmar's time.
I don't mind.
Do you want to go first? You're more than welcome. So Ben, do you want to share your screen and you go first? So
I just need to know how to do it. Oh, is it this one? Share your screen. Yeah, I've got it. Share screen and screens. This one, screen one.
I have to say this was painful last time. None of us quite knew how to do it, but there we go.
So I'm just going to move my Discord window out of the way. This is Chronosculpt on my 4K monitor. Okay, so you can see just how teeny tiny it is. But I mean, it's still legible, but you've got to squint. Can you see my screen?
I can.
Yeah, so
you can.
To everybody, if you don't come to Discord very often, just click on the box with that screen. It will come up big.
Okay. Oh, right, I see. It says it's paused to save my resources, but whatever. Anyway, so you know what this is. This is LightWave on my 4K monitor. I don't understand why people say it won't run on a 4K monitor. It looks perfectly fine to me. Ish.
I'm running it on 4K.
Yeah. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is show you our text tool. So I'll make a null and I'll call it font because I'm like that. I'll go for properties and I'll go for a text generator. And now I'll hit the properties for the properties for this and no text. And I'll give it a particular font. So Myriad, semi-extended. Go for it. There you go. Big text. All right. And I'll center it. Not for any reason at the moment, but you'll see why later on. Okay. So I'm going to make bones. Now, the text is actually a single object. Okay. I've got a single object that I can move up as a single object. But now that I've got bones in it, it means that I can actually take individual letters and move them down or around or size them up or down or whatever. So I'm just going to do that. I won't do that now. First of all, I'll make it my object and I'll go further up so it's got a bit more of a form. Okay. Now, bones. Go to frame 25. And I'll move it down. So there we go. We've got some fantastic animation, text animation. And I will make it a bit sharper. So I'll change the zoom in and zoom out, the tension, so that it falls down in a more respectable manner. But now what I'm going to do is take that. In fact, I'll go back in there. I'll take that, I'll copy it, and I will select these 4 letters, and I will do get keys. So now I have all of my letters in. Now I just want to filter them so that I can actually see what I'm looking at. And thanks to Sean for that little tip. So now I've got all those, and I will paste. And so I've now got my letters all in, and they're all falling down. And let me just move these two up a bit, or down a bit, because they're a bit off wonk. Okay, so
Wonk.
there's my animation now. It's fantastic, eh? So what I want to do is make the animation a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to go into the scene editor, and I'm going to take the sequence of keys, and I'm just going to shift the E across, and then the X across, T a little bit more, and exclam. So now when I press play, it's a bit more interesting. Let's give it a floor. So again, I'm going to just use a null, and this time I'm going to use some of that ProGeo, procedural geometry, that we were talking about earlier. So by default, it comes in and it's already got a cube attached, so which you can see there. This is procedural geometry just created in layout. There's no need for modeler at the moment. Doesn't mean to say we're stopping modeler at all. So I've got my floor and just want to make sure that it's lower than the text, because that's kind of important. So let's move it down. Boom. Okay. So now, oh, I didn't move them. Okay. Let's just take that and move it there. Okay. So now when I press play, I have my text all falling down and sitting on the floor. I'm sure this is all stuff you already know off by heart. The fact is that I've made it in layout without touching modeler yet at all. It's quite groovy. And if I look at it in VPR, it's still not very interesting. I'm going to edit the surface on here. I'm just going to make it car paint just to be quick. And this one, I'm going to make it luminous, and then copy this swatch and paste it in here. There we go. This, yeah, a little bit nicer, but I think that it's actually still not very interesting. So instead of using hand animation, I'm going to go for some dynamics instead. So let's choose my floor, and I'm going to make it a static body, which is a body that doesn't move in dynamics. And then I'm going to make my font object a parts body, and a parts body takes each individual polygon island and treats it as a separate object. So as it falls, it will fall down separately. And let's just go into the item properties for bullet. I can turn off VPR now. I'm not needing it. Okay.
Ben, let me pause you
Yeah.
real quick, and let's see if I can get at least the stream back to me to catch up, because I've missed like the last 2 minutes of your demo because it has just been spinning. Nothing's coming through here. You're even frozen. So let me just, if I can get you to stop sharing and reshare, maybe. Let's see if that's
okay.
Well, it may be working for you guys, but I'm the one recording it. So if it's not working for me,
Kind of important.
it's gonna be shared on YouTube. So I gotta get it to work here.
User error juice from Dan Ablan.
Yeah. So why is it that only Ben's thing here is spinning?
I had a short disconnect earlier too. Like I was literally kicked off of.
Yeah, it's actually Elmar, you've
That's
disconnected as well. So.
Vanson is saying 4K too much, and I am on extremely fast fiber here, so maybe it's just the way across the ocean there, Deuce. Emlon's got spinning.
I just don't know what. Cage Man, I'd appreciate it if it's good. Keep going.
Okay, so shall I carry on?
Carry on.
You okay, Cage? Yep. Okay.
Yep. Go ahead and share it and pick it back up.
Okay. So
make sure to share.
I mean, I can make the resolution lower if you like, because it's set to 1440 at the moment. I can set it to 1080.
No,
Worth a shot. Just do
carry on.
Yeah.
Any road up. So we've got our text in parts. At the moment it's a mesh, but I'll make it convex pieces because it's so much faster. And for the floor, it doesn't need to be mesh either. I'll make it box. That'll be faster too, even though it's a very simple mesh. Okay, so now if I close those windows and hit go to end, that shows me my animation for my text, which is great. It's still not very exciting. So let's bring up that item properties window again, and this time I'll make the text super bouncy, which will make it a little bit more interesting at least. Boing. Okay, that's fine. But now I've got the director shouting in my ear saying, we don't want the word text, you idiot. We want the word LightWave. That's what we need. It's what we're promoting here. So I go, okay, fine. And I go in here and I go, LightWave 3D, capital D, exclamation mark, update. And that's all good. I'll turn off dynamics for a moment and I'll make my table bigger, my floor. Okay. And then I can just hit go to the end and we can see it works. It already works right out of the box without doing anything. The one thing that doesn't work is that I've got things piecing the floor, but you know what to do there. You just go into world properties and you up your dynamics frame rate. And then it might take a little bit longer to calculate, but it will make sure that everything's in there. Okay. Now, that's quite good. But the director's shouting at me again, and he's saying, we need more than just LightWave. We need to say something else. So we'll do LightWave 3D is amazing! Exclamation mark. We're centered. So update. We can get rid of the bones. We don't need them. And now this is going to look a real mess. But there you go. This is all done in like layout, and it's really speedy. So that's the cool thing. One of the other things in ProGeo in the nodes, I wanted to show, and this is just something I've done while we were actually waiting in the entry. You can make line geometry. So here I've got a ProGeo cube, and I've just animated a point going to the corner, and I've got a bit of text saying corner, and that's as clever as it gets. If I show you it like that, then you can see
Just make sure to bring over the node window into your main screen so that we can see it.
Oh yeah, you want to see that? Okay.
Unless you are just showing the unless you're just sharing the layout window, in which that won't work.
I can chat. There you go.
There we go.
That's all it is. Okay. So I'll explain what's going on. It shouldn't take too much. ProGeometry is the destination node. Add geometry is what you're trying to do. The line geometry is what you're trying to add. And the two item infos are the two nulls that I've used for either end of the line. Okay, that's it for me. I will pass back the screen.
Fantastic. So just a couple of very, very quick things on that. I haven't gone through the text tool extensively more than Ben has, but I literally just playing with it had 30 odd lines. So it's again, bear in mind that used to be in Modeler, you'd have to take the layers, center each, highlight each layer, center the layers. There was a massive set of things you had to do to get that to work. It's now all done in the layout really quickly. There's a couple of things obviously we're going to try to fix longer term. So the bevel system in LightWave has always been a bit ropey. So it's one of those things that we know we will try to sort that out as time goes on. It's on Elmar's list to do at some point. And it is certainly something I think we'll be looking at. So there are limitations. Yeah, well, obviously the whole thing where extrude and polys go over polys and all those sort of things, we will be trying to remedy that at some stage, but we can't do that it's not a quick thing to do. It's quite a big thing to do. So the text tool really is a really nice step in the right direction. It should have been done obviously years ago. Glad it's done now for you guys. So that's that. So Ben, thank you for showing that, bud, and I love seeing it with the dynamics as well, and also adding the text. Part of the reason for that demo that way, it shows how robust it is, and you can keep on going backwards and forwards to it, adding more text and altering it, adjusting it, changing the font. It's good. So it should be good for most people's production purposes. So next, we now have, I think, Elmar, do you fancy showing a little bit of...
Yeah, I can go next.
Oh,
I can show a little bit of our what you can do with our geonodes. And again, I want to point out, because people were asking questions in the chat, everything we're showing here is work in progress. Some of the tools that we're showing are not the latest version that the developer has. There are versions that were builds that we made. So they might. So our developers are working on things as we speak, and there's constantly new builds coming out, and not everybody of us here has the latest of everything. So there's a lot more to everything than what we're showing, and please keep that in mind, okay? And I'm gonna show the little bit of the geonodes right now. Wait, actually, I need to show the whole screen. So I don't know whether you can see my screen. Can you see it?
Yep, just come up, Bob. It's all good.
Okay, so quick thing. So these are our procedural geometry node here, and yeah, it's a modifier in the stack, so it can be stacked with other modifiers. It can even be stacked with other procedural geometry modifiers. So that was an important part of it. And the text tool we showed earlier, we might actually make not for 2023 probably, but for later versions, there might be a geometry node in the geonode system that is the text tool at some point. So, but again, the geonodes weren't quite there when the work started on the text tool. So, there's some parallel developments going on here, but for 2024, it's very likely that we'll make a geometry node for text. So just to give you an idea, so we have a primitive geometry, Ben already showed that earlier. So you know you can make it a cube, or you can make it a cylinder or a sphere. And if you look, there's some things happening to these things that obviously don't look quite spherish or cylinderish, and that's the reason is because of the other geometry nodes that were applied to it afterwards. So say like I have a select polygons node here, and I can select the polygons that I want to apply this extrude geometry to, and it's jumping back to that stage that my primitive geometry was before, you know, so I can see that, and I can select the polygons, and I can deselect polygons, select polygons, whatever I want. You know, close that, and then depending on what I have selected, you know, I get an extrude here, and select this one again, and select this one again, because I have that set up so nicely like that. So, okay, that's a little better. And then I have an extrude applied to that, to the selected polygons, and you know, like, you know, some extrude. You have an inset, you know, like you would do with the bevel tool and in Modeler. And but then you're like, well, you know, I got all these new polygons. I want to select some more polygons. So you go here, and of those newly created polygons that were created with the first extrude, you know, I can now go and select those, and you know, bam. The extrude that is applied after that is applied to those newly selected polygons that were created in the extrude earlier. So, and you know, you could of course go on and on with that. And again, like this is just the first, you know, iteration of the geometry nodes. We're gonna be constantly adding new geometry nodes as we keep developing them. There's gonna be a lot more coming in the future, where and we're gonna, our plan is to take that to you know, a lot further than it currently is, but it is a start. Let me show you something else. Let me just
just while Elmar's loading that, obviously you probably all noticed the envelope and texture on there, so you can envelope those builds as well. So the geo nodes are effectively fully animatable.
yeah,
and
we got textures
controllable over
and
time.
envelopes. We got textures and envelopes of everything, because that's how we roll. Let me. Maybe I'm gonna show. Yeah, I'm gonna show. I know. Yeah, maybe. Okay. So here is a. I'm gonna load it. Sorry about this intermission. Get back to it. So here's something slightly more complicated. So we have a Boolean that's booleaning through this box here, and then we have dynamics applied to the parts that were created by the GeoNode Boolean. And how that works is we have, you know, we have geometry coming in from a mesh, and a primitive geometry for the box, and the mesh is that object that I modeled that cuts through it, and it goes into our Boolean CSG node, and then this is added as geometry to what is technically just a null object. And then we have, you know, time here and some logic, and then what we also do is we are caching it, and then we can apply dynamics to it. And as you see, like after that, the box has been broken apart. Okay, one more thing, you know, it's that I think is fun to show. Okay, so it was already mentioned earlier that we have an L system and that's also part of the GeoNodes. So, and just showing it's a very simple node flow here for the GeoNodes, and you can see it's really just an L system node, and L systems are like rule-based systems. I hope you can all see that. They're rule-based systems, so you have a bunch of rules, and there's of course going to be documentation for this, and you're going to have presets for it too. So lots and lots of presets, and I'm going to show some of that in a little bit as well. But yeah, you have like rules, and essentially you can iterate through those rules to make your say a tree, and you can of course, as you can see, you can animate through those iterations, and you get something like this, tree growing, and you have things like tropism that you can adjust, like, and of course that's animatable too, and the angle and all of this stuff, and of course all of this can then be instanced as well. So, and we can even do instances of instances with the GeoNodes. So I hope I think that will get some of you excited. And create a mesh from that, because this is normally just some lines, but we'll show that in a moment too. Like if I turn this off, you can see there's just some lines, and we have like a bunch of presets, like the 3D tree here. We have call curve. You can see how the rules change. Like when you load a different preset, and it's a bit of a thing to get used to learn those rules. But once you got we got a little help here that helps you learn how those what rules there are, and once you get used to it, you can do some really amazing procedural stuff here, and it's all you can do many iterations of it. And I think I went a little bit too far from my poor system here.
I really like the Pinot nodes, Pinot curve preset.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think it's just a lovely pattern.
And of course you can make that a mesh too. And again, like there's depending on what rule set you have, you can change the iterations. You can adjust all these values, and they all can be textured and animated. So that is that. Yep. So I think I showed. Oh, maybe the tube. The tube I can also show. The tube geometry. Just load that, and then I can show that yes, things have UV maps on them and weight maps on them, so you can do some things with that. It's technically it's a spline node. So it's a spline node, and geometry. And you have a spline geometry node here, and of course you can, like you have all sorts of things. Of course, once again, with also all these settings have, envelopes and textures on them, so that's important. And let me show this. Edit spline. And, you can add a knot, and then move that knot around, scale and rotate, and as you can see, there's a UV map on that. So that all that works. So that's
And those control points there's a node that you can use that will attach a null to those points so that you can animate the nulls around. You can parent those nulls to other geometry, to robot arms, to whatever. So now you've got your tubes and your everything moving around with your characters.
And I messed that up good, didn't I? But anyway, so.
Oh, no, that looks kind of fun. Margin,
Yeah.
what do you think?
But
Margin, would that work for one of your?
We got quite a few geometry node features going, and we're adding more by the hour. So there's gonna be a lot more by release, and we keep refining things and adding to it, and yeah. So I'm very happy with what our development team achieved with that. So I think it's going to be a very useful feature.
Yeah, and it is only the beginning. I think one of the just to stress it, we aren't stopping with 30. So there's gonna be more and more of those. They're going to be some other big developments. I mean, Elmar, all the guys, we've been talking about some major things we can do with that ongoing, which we're planning to do for the next release. So, or starting, and again, ongoing from past that. Again, that's probably worth pointing that out. I think quite often with back LightWave, a lot of things were developed and then no one carried on developing them, and that is absolutely not going to be the case here. We're building things that we know we're going to be doing a stage 2 and a stage 3 and so on. And I think it's very important to us that when we start something that we do actually continue to develop it afterwards. The other thing which I think is probably fairly important is that I had a couple of people sort of saying, are you going to update the interface or the colors or whatever? And there are obviously an endless amount of things that we can do, but just bear in mind, we've done this from literally buying it. So far, I think we're just over 4 months in. It's staggering what we've been able to produce in that short space of time. And obviously we can't do everything overnight, but the intention is to obviously eventually we'll modernize the interface, we'll do things like that, but it's down to priorities of things we've got to do. So we know there's extensive things we've got to change on the modeler and update on the modeler. And again, it's what comes first. Do you amalgamate, get the interface to basically be good, and then rebuild the whole system? Which way around do you do these things? And all of that is in discussion. But all I can say right now is that we are heavily developing tool sets that we think will add massive functionality to the animators basically, and obviously for the people who were holding back to see what we were doing, hopefully that's giving you a little bit of taste. I'm going to show one more thing. Elmar, you got anything else you want to show, bud? Are you okay?
I think I showed a good amount, unless there's something else you want me to show. I mean, like I have the Unreal Bridge, a little bit something there.
Let me just show. That's full. We've got that. So.
Oh yeah, that's a fun thing. So like I don't have that in the build right now because it's in developers private branch, but we have compound nodes and presets for compound nodes and stuff like that. A lot of presets for nodes too that we're going to be shipping with the package.
So do you want me to just? You're going to show something there, Elmar, or?
No, I don't just because it's in a different build. So like,
so on those subpads, if you could get up the Unreal Bridge video, because maybe you could scrub through a bit of that if that's possible.
Yeah.
While Elmar's doing that, and I will come back to you, Ben. Just give me 1 second. So on the compound nodes, that basically means we can create mega complex chunks that can be preset based down to a compound node, so that a lot of very, very complex things we can give you presets that will enable you to not have to go through the learning curve and build that, but actually have them already in there. And obviously we're aiming to add more and more of those. I presume, I would have thought some people will probably want to make packs of those for sale, etc. So it's going to be a fantastic thing having the compound nodes in there. It means you can pass over a whole little chunk to your programming team. So you may have done a really complex set of ProGeo nodes, and then you want to pass that to your animation team, and you just make it down to a compound node, pass over the compound node, and they've got that ability to do those things. So it's again a really good thing from a production point of view, but also for people who perhaps don't have the patience to put together very complex compound nodes. Other people can do it for them. You can pull them off the shelf, take a preset, and save yourself a stack of time. Ben, sorry, you were going to say?
I was going to say, are you going to show the thing in instancing?
I'm going to do the instancing in a few minutes. I just want to see the Unreal thing first, if that's possible.
I'll bring it up. Give me one second.
I promise I'll show the instancing.
I don't know. Can you see my screen? So I'm just going to show you real quick. This is something we got relatively recently to work. This is, obviously Unreal 5 bridge, and you can just can go back and forth, and so you can go back and forth. You can make changes between LightWave and Unreal, and they translate immediately over to Unreal. So just a quick show here, but yeah, it's all working. Meshes go over. We just got the materials to work, but I did not get a video in time for it. So
that's it. That's done in the last week. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So like all that happened in the past week. So
one thing I just want people to understand about what this is. The current workflow that people have been used to in LightWave has been you create a layout, or you create a modeler, you move things around in layout, you then save out an FBX. You then load that FBX into Unreal and work on it. This is using a bridge. So this is, you load things into layout, you click sync with Unreal, and everything in layout shows up in Unreal. You then move things around in layout, and it's updated in Unreal. There's no save load. There's no any of this. It's direct. It's a handshake direct across.
Yeah, and the meshes are actually built in Unreal, so there's not like an intermediate format that something is saved to and then loaded into Unreal. It is literally the meshes are actually getting built in the Unreal Engine. So we transfer the raw data, and then the meshes are getting built in.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. And I mean, to give you an idea of how close this was to show, by the way, I think we got the build which Elmar just showed was last week, literally just before the demo last Friday, and obviously he's just completed the surfacing thing. So it's coming together really fast. So
I have actually a screenshot of, but it's like not a very useful screenshot. But I can show that real quick. I mean, it's it just shows. Can you see that? It shows like this is the surface and in LightWave, and then it shows that it's showing the same way in Unreal. So but it's a very basic surface. The developer literally just got it done like 15 minutes before the meeting started, and so that's why I don't have a video or anything more to show. But that's how quickly things are moving at the moment. So yeah.
Okay. So that's really fun. And you don't want to mention the other thing that you mentioned last week?
Well, Ben already sort of leaked it
What?
because
Oh, is it Ben? Ben's fault this week. He's the new boy. So it's Ben.
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Always
so
Ben.
we mentioned that we're
Ben.
working on an Apple Silicon version, and that's been pretty far along. You showed a screenshot there. So, but we're also working on a Linux version. Now,
Oh.
that one is still in relatively early stages. We have, some parts of LightWave are working, and we don't know whether we can get it to work for 2023 in time. But I wanted to let you all know, I know a lot of people have been asking for it, and we have been listening, and we're actively working on it. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into a native Linux version, there's a lot of plugins, a lot of things that need to work. We need to, test it on. There's not just one Linux distro that we can test it on. We need to test it on multiple Linux distros. We need to make sure everything works. That the installer packages work. That we have. There's a lot that goes into that. So I just want to say, we're not promising a Linux version for 2023, but we are working on it actively, and I can say that. And that sort of like a parallel development with the Apple Silicon version. And so as we are working with getting the Apple Silicon version going, which is fairly far along, and we're very confident that we're going to have that ready in time. We're also working on the Linux version, and it's happening. But again, I cannot promise it for 2023, but maybe like a later update after 2023, be it like a maintenance update or the 2024 release. So,
And I think that's again just it's such a cool thing to have. And certainly, obviously, studios need a Linux version in an ideal environment. So having Linux not just for the individual users who want it, but also from a studio perspective, is a really useful thing to have. So again, that along with the Apple one, I think is again a major things that no one I think would have expected us to make an Apple native one or be working on a Linux one, and so that's that. So what's next? So the next thing is Deuce. So basically, what we have now is so you're gonna do hopefully the Boolean thing live with the okay. So here we go. So Deuce, man, it's your turn.
Alrighty. So let me
He's got the
minimize
juice.
this. So we're gonna come in here and share screens not applications, screen 1, and go live. So here we are. Again, this is going back into the procedural geometry nodes. One of the things that we've already shown and that you've already seen is you can create geometry in the nodes. But what I want to do is I want to show real quick here by dropping in a cube. So we're going to center on bottom. So a cube, and now we're going to bring in a spheres, and I'll leave it centered. So we can do this. So this would be real geometry. So this would be either created in Modeler or created like I did here. I'm going to add a null that is going to house my ProGeos. And so we're going to come in here and say procedural geometry. And I don't need that primitive there. So I will just delete him, because what I want is I want to get mesh. Let's see. From mesh. So this from mesh, I will make the cube, and another from mesh, and I'll make the sphere. So that means up here, I don't necessarily need to see these anymore. So I'm going to add my Boolean and plug one into one, one into the other, that into the geometry. So now we've got, well, what looks like the same exact thing that I just had. But what I can say is let's do a subtraction. So now if I grab my sphere and move my sphere around, you can see that I'm doing a live Boolean. So this will inherit it'll inherit UVs, it'll inherit textures, it'll inherit anything that you apply to either piece. So this is 100% live and keyframeable. So if I say move to a different keyframe or a different frame and move it, this is real-time Boolean. So to play like the chef on air, something that I had set up previously. And so it says I've paused it. So there we go. Can you see that now?
No, it's all there, bud.
So
It's all good.
we're now seeing an arm. So now if I hit play on my time frame, on my timeline, all I've got doing here is a moving sphere that is doing the Boolean going across, that is, as well as the sphere size is going this way, it is wiping the skin on. And then as it gets to the other side, and yes, possible to use a null object with shape primitive. Well, it's going to be different because it's not going to be the geo. So now as the sphere passes over, it's going to now, as the intersection comes to the other side, here in a few frames, let me go ahead and just jump ahead. Oh, you know what? I bet I might have it saved as a preview that I did earlier. So there's a wipe there and then the wipe away. So this is just a sphere moving across the geometry, revealing one from the other. So I know that we've all done, I want to cut inside of an engine, I want to cut inside of an arm, I want to cut inside of a vehicle, I want to all of those. Gee, how do you do an animated Boolean in LightWave? Now, here we go. Animated Booleans. ProGeo.
Fantastic. Excellent.
Nice,
And,
Deuce.
and again, another fantastic.
And yes,
tool.
the cut surface is defined. The cut surface, actually, what you're seeing there is the inside of the sphere. So you can texture it differently.
Cool.
So there
I
you go.
think is that everything we've got to show, bar instancing?
I think some
My
people
turn.
might want to see that instance painter. I don't know. I've seen a few
Yeah.
people, kind of like.
Okay,
Well, I thought we could finish off the text because that was enough, really.
Let's just clear that. Brilliant. Sorry, it's me going too fast. I apologise. Okay.
And I think that's why it was not working earlier.
Yeah.
Well, it was probably, but you just didn't see it because it was like getting applied.
Yeah. It was very small on the surface.
Okay. Yeah. So
we got the brush. Okay, let's just set this up. So we're going to enlarge. So let's call the brush so we can see it. Enlarge the brush. I'm going to do a 0.8 on the distance. So that's a little bit in the middle as we saw before. And obviously I can adjust the flow. So we can now just spray over the surface with those objects, okay? So also though, we can do, obviously because it's surface, if you put different surfaces on the surface of this, we can actually do painting by individual objects on a specific surface if we wanted to. So let me just clear that. So clear that. We're going to go over to the block, which is my little yellow block over there. I'm just going to call up the tree, and now we're going to brush that item on that block. Okay, and you notice it won't paint anywhere else. Okay, so we can do it by area. So that means if you're doing a piece of architectural work and you want to have a line of grass, firmly down one straight edge, much easier to do than obviously with weight maps. You often used to get bleed where the grass would go into the bits not supposed to have it, and it was difficult. This means you can do it by a clear surface delineation, and it means it's much more precise in how you actually would paint them on. And obviously we can turn that off. We can do it just on the ground plane if we want to. So on the ground plane, again, back to everything, and we can now basically brush that on. It won't brush over that area. Okay, so we've got the ability to do that, and obviously we can adjust the flow as well. So if we want to whack up the flow, we can have a substantial amount more being painted quickly down here, as we see fit. Okay, so basically that's the basics of the instancing. We've still got total control on say scale and adjustment of the scale and those sort of things. So we could do 90%, 130%, and now you've got the randomization of the cubes. And we could also on the rotation, let's say, assign them to the normals or just have them as a standard alignment. So if we got them attached to the normal, as we displace it, they'll bend and turn accordingly. The
Hey,
trees,
Andy,
likewise. Yes, bud?
do one quick thing.
Yep.
Erase some.
Oh, yeah, I was going to do that in a minute, bud, if you don't mind. Just give me a second. So
Sure.
on the trees, we've also got the ability to sort of rotate those as well. So obviously, I know all of this was still in the original instance, but it's on the system as we're creating it, instantaneously adjusting it. And obviously we can do that, including scale, etc., as we go. So let's do 90, 120. We've now got a variation of trees. So again, at that point, we can just start painting again if we want to. So we can paint those over here. They'll now paint with all the new attributes as everything else has. And as Deuce just said, if we want to, we can now delete those just by using the right-hand mouse button, and we can delete those in exactly the same way. And again, you can see clear cut lines as we do it across the surfaces. That can either be on all or whichever way you actually want to do it. So,
and
okay,
the reason that they're all flashing is because of the weighting. So at the moment they're all weighted the same. So it's just software. It's LightWave working out how many of each thing should be in each place. So that's why they're all jumping around.
Yeah, and obviously it's going to be redrawing positions of some of those things as well. So it is what it is. So basically, on top of that, we can go on the displacement side, and we could obviously now adjust this, and they'll all follow the displacement. So if we go to just add a procedural, let's automatic size that, change it to 50 meters. Let's get that. So we've now displaced it. I'm going to add a null. So let's go. Okay. It's going to parent that null just so we can move the surface. So now, over time, if I want to do it, let's do it right down here. I can obviously move that, and I think will undulate over that surface. Also, at any point, we can still go back and paint. So I can go back to the ground plane, go back to the instance, turn it on and off just to activate it again. And now we can paint over that undulated surface. So it doesn't matter if we add displacement to something, it will still instance in exactly the same way. And obviously this is saved with the scene file. So it's part of the scene. Basically, you don't have to do a weight map first. It's easy to adjust things on the fly as you go. On top of that, obviously, you can animate it. So you could be doing, putting yachts on a ocean that's undulating, and you can just paint them on and airbrush them on. It could be sequins on a dress. So you could put, a piece of cloth on a character, put on all the sequences, and as that would move, they'll all move with the cloth accordingly. Because you're obviously doing it direct onto the surface, it's easy. So and once again with this, at any point you can sort of go and erase an item if you wish to. So let's just quickly prove that over this as well. So let's turn that on. And again, right hand mouse button, I can delete stuff on the fly or paint the stuff down as I want to at any point. So it's really, really easy, really simple. You don't have to do a weight map first, you just paint it straight on. Obviously, you can do it just about in VPR as well, although it does slow down. Actually, let me just change the color of those trees. Give me a second. And let's get rid of that. Keep that. Make that perhaps a little less saturated. Cool. And now I'll make them a lot more diffuse. Paste onto those. So now again with the instancer, I can go onto here, switch it on, switch it off again. And now I can just about paint in the Viper window as well. So really fast, really easy to use. I think we've got 1,430 instances there, done in just a few minutes. And obviously, again, all attached to a surface that you can adjust easily. I think also, and I'm not sure, I haven't tried this yet, but I was chatting about this with Deuce. We think we can also use the new Spline tools to run instances along a spline. I think you could do that before, but it's again, all that's still possible. And you can still use weight maps if you want. But I have to say, just painting direct onto the geometry is significantly quicker than it would have been in LightWave before, and obviously pretty much unlimited quantities of instances. It's obviously going to be memory permitting and graphic card capable, but you're going to be able to adjust those things significantly easier than you could have done previously. That's it. So,
Hey Andy, would you show the distance thing so that you can see how you can have just a line of trees that are very spaced?
I actually haven't done that, so it might be something you want to quickly show.
I can show it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just you. I haven't done that, Bud. So hasn't been
All
something I've actually done. So let me unshare that, and you can take over.
Okay. Share my screen. Right. So, my version of this tool is a little bit more recent than Andy, so I've actually got the names on the buttons, etc., which is handy. So, as he said, I can just paint, and we get this nice green around, so that you know when you're painting, etc. And we can up the flow to 30, and then it really packs them in. Also here, you selected item, okay, is what I was talking about for Andy to do. And here we can just paint a load of cones, which is all fine, except the really cool thing is, if I do 10 for the min distance, now when I paint, I'm painting a line. So imagine street lights, that kind of thing, and you can just paint exactly what you want. Traffic cones, yeah, traffic cones there.
Yeah.
And that's really handy.
And
And that was it.
you didn't. Your panel is not showing.
What
You need to
panel?
share the whole screen for the panels to show.
Just so that,
Oh right, okay. So it's just
Right.
I'm just sharing the LightWave window. Okay, hang on.
Yeah. You might have to show it again.
Try again. Change windows. And screens. There you go. That's the problem. Yeah. Okay. Did it right the first time. Okay, so we can start again.
There we go.
But you can just see that I've painted a row of cones, and they're spaced out according to my min distance, which means that I can paint street lamps, or as G says, I can paint traffic cones going along, and it's great because you can't paint them in between. But
fence posts. You could do a
fence posts,
quick line
exactly.
fence post.
Yeah. Very handy. So that's it. Oh, and me saying my tool, my instancing tool is a bit newer than Deuce. Andy's. These are the buttons that you get with it. So the same as before, random uniform, but now the brush tool there. And static is a tool which was there previously, but it's a tool to make sure that your items are only static. They're not going to be animated, so they're quicker in memory. Paint selected item means I'm only painting with this one. If I untick that, then I'm painting with all of them. Okay, and that's it.
Cool. Good.
All right.
So shall I give a quick summary of just what you've just seen?
I think so. I think we're to that point.
Okay. So we've got the instance tool. We've got the ProGeo. You've seen obviously Boolean, Bevel, Spline, L system. Some of those. There's over 30 geo nodes. I think it's 30 currently. Elmar, is that right? Or is there a few more? But I think it's about, isn't it?
Things are coming so quickly and changing so quickly. I have a hard time keeping track, and my build might not actually be correct. Like the
Well, I think on my list, I put on the total, I put over. So I know there's going to be more, but there's 30 geo nodes, the 20 plus general updates, 12 major features in there that everybody's going to have a lot of fun playing with. You know, things, I mean, including the Chronosculpt now being given away with it, the Unreal Bridge and the Octane, the OD tools. So I think over 60 plugins or over 60 new features are going to be in the new build of LightWave. And we obviously we've only mentioned probably 10% of the stuff tonight of the things that are going to be in there. So there are other things we are obviously working on that we'll hopefully be able to show you when we do the next demo in November. But again, we a lot of people wanted to see the proof of the pudding, as it were, that we actually were going to be producing a decent update. And I suppose part of the fear was, having just bought it, how could we possibly get done an awful lot of new features and new plugins and those sort of things. Well, hopefully you've seen that we've made some major strides in a really very short space of time, and we're still adding features right up until release, and then of course we're already starting to think about obviously the next update. So it is going to be quite I think a very, very cool update. I think probably one of the ones with the most features added, and for a very, very long time. And just the instancing and the ProGeo nodes, and the new Unreal Bridge tool, the Apple Silicon, all of those things are major things. Let alone the throwing in of things like the Octane tools, the OD tools, all of which would be paid for normally, additional features, and of course Linux and in there as well. So I think that's about it. You want to add?
Want to add? You haven't shown everything. There's a lot of smaller features that have been added that maybe not make for such great thing to show. And again, like, they are still in the private branches of each developer, so we would have to make a build for every single branch and then show it off here. So we only showed some selected stuff today, but there's a lot of small things, little things, and bigger things that are coming to LightWave that are like also not just stuff that we bought, not just stuff that we that we showed today. So there's a lot more coming.
Things that I would
No,
call quality of life. Quality of life
yeah.
improvements. They're not that flashy for demo, but hopefully, what I'm hoping is for the thing in November that we can, at least show some of those off, as a real quick and hey, look at this, hey, look at this, hey, look at this. So we will see how that goes.
Yeah. So I mean, like there's going to be a lot of stuff like node editor updates, little workflow updates. There's stuff to how we handle colors in LightWave and all of this. So I don't want to get too far ahead, but there's a lot coming. There's some importer updates. There's some, the little things that make life sweet, but they're not, again, like we got to show more later in November.
You can always mention one or two if you want to. I mean, you're bursting. You're going to explode. And do you want to mention just one or two little?
Well, we already mentioned the presets in nodes, and there's a lot of little workflow features how you operate in the node editor. Can't really say from the top of my head, but there's a lot of stuff in the node. There's a big package in the node editor of new features that are really cool, and we got a little bit of update to Alembic. There's an open core IO thing coming, so. There's things we're working on and
there's the thing beginning with T.
Beginning with T.
I forgot something.
Yeah.
Andy, check your Skype.
Okay, give me a sec.
I gotta find you.
Oh yeah. Give me a sec. Oh, the thing beginning with T. Yeah. Yeah. We obviously. Yeah. Yes. We will mention that in the next one.
Cool.
Yes.
That's because that's a big thing.
Right.
That's a big one.
That's another. That's another nice biggie. Yeah. So. So I hopefully what you've seen today is good. I know we haven't done an open question and answer session today, and it's simply because last time it went on for I think an hour and a half, so we ended up extensive amount of time. But we will certainly have more opportunities, I think, to show you stuff and hopefully give you question and answer questions as well. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen, and but I obviously hope you appreciate what we've done in what is a very short space of time. I mean, if you think 4 months and literally the first month and a half of that, maybe more, was just opening up code, looking at code, trying to work out what we were going to do. I remember Elmar showed me some what were the little bits of code you set? He opened up a piece of code, and one little plugin piece was 10,000 lines of code, and there were thousands of these pieces.
Modeler code. It was pretty. I mean, like this is the thing. Like we had some disadvantages when we got started because some of the things we were hoping to get when we started, we didn't quite get at the time, including certain documentation and stuff like that. So, particularly for the code. So it was a bit of a bumpy start, but we're going moving forward. And yes, I know we all want more optimization and more bigger changes, and they're coming. We're gonna have a lot more bigger changes, coming to LightWave. But we had, you understand we had relatively little time for this update of actual development time, and I think, and I'm very proud of my team for what they have achieved in this time. I'm very, very, very happy. Yeah. Like this is, really exceeded my expectations, and I'm very proud that I can work with.
Yeah, they've been amazing. I mean, to a man, I think every one of them has gone above and beyond. Except what happens, Elmar? Ben is now the
Well,
who's going
right,
to copy.
because we now have
What's
Ben,
that?
so Elmar's off the hook. So
On
Yeah.
my screen, there's 3 of you across the top, and I'm at the bottom.
Uh-huh.
It was planned. No, it's so guys. I hope you like what you've seen. I mean, Deuce, do you have any questions you picked up on that we need to answer from what people have been saying?
I've hit them primarily in the chat, and a lot of them have actually been answered as we have proceeded. So I think currently, I think we're pretty good.
Okay, so we're done. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed it. Obviously, welcome to sort of if other lightweight people who haven't perhaps been able to get on the site, let them know what we've been showing. You're more than welcome to talk about it outside.
Release dates, we're still looking at Q4. So that would be from now to the end of the year. So
yes, and obviously
Count Mumu.
Yeah, no, and the thing is with that is I think there's bound to be, we've talked about potentially getting a release out and then doing a little update if there's anything missing that's still scheduled to be out on time but gets delayed. So the chances are we'll get something out and then probably do a few extra releases with a few other bits added on as well. So that will all be done. Be that December, January, there'll be further releases. Longer term, we do intend to start doing builds on a regular basis that with patch updates and bug fixes and those sort of things. But obviously we've got to get up to pace. So the first thing for us is just to get a load of good features out. The second thing will be to sort of get obviously then a constant stream of releases out, probably 2 major releases a year, but I think that's going to be the case. And obviously we'll start picking off the bigger things, as Elmar said, as time goes on over the next next few builds. It will then just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and hopefully faster and easier as well. So that's it, guys. Anything you want to add? We all done? We good?
I think we're good. I think we're good for this one.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, guys, all of you have a lovely weekend. Nice to see so many of you here, and we'll see you on the next one. Good.
Yep.
Thanks ever so much.
Bye,
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for joining.
Bye.